All right, here we go. Flyers game day. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, Flyers, and the Predators tonight. Little Sunday. Nothing says hockey and NHL like a 6 o'clock puck drop.
Yes. Yeah, that's a little strange, isn't it?
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock Central Time. I guess that's what some teams do. They're kind of all over the place on Sunday NHL puck drops. Some of them are at 1, some of them are at 2. I mean, you have national TV in there sometimes messing things up. This is just when Nashville wants to play, I guess. I mean, so we'll see. There's already a couple of games going on in the league, and there's another 6 p.m. start up in Minnesota, and then everything else is later on. So yeah, it's a little bit of the Wild West, right?
Yeah, very
It is.
bizarre. We have some news.
Yeah.
How about this? Flyers sign forward Noah Cates, younger brother of Jackson Cates, to his entry-level contract. He was a 5th-round pick back in the 2017 draft, 137th overall. And he's on a 2-way entry-level contract that begins this season. So he will burn a year. This according to general manager and president of hockey operations, Chuck Fletcher.
Yep, this is a bit of a unique situation. The Flyers drafted Noah Cates back in 2017. And then, along the line, they became aware of his brother Jackson Cates. They were playing together at Minnesota Duluth, and they through I guess working with Noah, got to know Jackson, and then he actually became the first one to sign with the Flyers. He is 2 years older than Noah is. So his last season at Minnesota Duluth was the 2021 campaign, the shortened one. Then he came up last year and played 4 games for the Flyers after that season was over. But the two of them were together when Minnesota Duluth won a national championship, and they've got that experience. And now Noah Cates was in he was in a interesting situation that a lot of college players are in when they stay in college for all 4 years. They're getting close to the point where they could choose a free agency route if they wanted to, but Cates decided he was going to stick with Philadelphia ostensibly, and now he's going to be in the lineup most likely on Tuesday night when the Flyers go to Minnesota to take on the Wild. It'd be interesting to see if they called up Jackson for that game too. That'd be fun.
Yeah, have both brothers, get the parents there. And Jackson's already played 15 NHL games. He played 11 this season, has 1 goal this year in those 11 games, played 4 and made his NHL debut the season prior, and picked up an assist there. So Noah Cates gets signed. Yeah, you always get a little nervous when a guy does go 4 years. Is he going to string it all the way out and become a free agent basically in August? I think it's like August 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
But they get him signed.
And Noah, Noah is one of those guys that, decided to take the route of going through the U.S. junior system first before going to college. Flyers them in 2017, and then he went and played. He was playing for Omaha in the USHL at the time, and they went and actually played another year at Omaha. He could have, I guess, unless I'm misunderstanding the timing, theoretically could have played even a year after that. And usually what ends up happening is you can play in the North American juniors till you're 20, then you'll go to college for 4 years. You come out of college as a 24-year-old, more seasoned player, and a lot of guys go that route if they don't get drafted. They decide to go in and try to develop their game more with the hope of landing a free agent contract on the other side of things. Cates obviously was drafted, but still decided to take that little extra step. So he comes to the Flyers. He's going to be an NHL rookie, but he's 23 years old. It's not 18, 19-year-old kid. He's 23 years old, and he's got not only World Junior Championships experience under his belt, but he played for the Olympics this year. Played in the Olympics for the U.S. this year. So he has been on some high-level stages with that, the NCAA National Championship and all of that. So he'll bring all that with him to the Flyers starting on Tuesday.
Yeah, how about that? Playing in the NCAA tournament. They just got knocked out yesterday. 37 games played at University of Minnesota Duluth this season, and 24 points, 11 goals, 13 assists. And then also He played in the 2019 World Junior Championships, but it played for his country this year in the Olympics in what was a bizarre year. It was supposed to be just NHLers, but obviously COVID changed that, and goes back to the University of Minnesota Duluth after. And here he is now, and we'll see him probably coming up on Tuesday. And like you said, I think the interesting part about it too, Bri, is guys that go this route. It's very rare that guys play in the NHL the year they're drafted, because they're kids going to play in the best league in the world with men. And it's very rare even for kids to go to NCAA Division I and play right out of high school. And like you said, some kids will go out and play in the BCHL or the North American Hockey League, and then jump into, or the USHL in his case, jump into their NCAA career. So when they get out, they're fully matured at that point. It's not like he was just drafted and isn't shaving. He's
Right. Yeah.
He's filled out now. He's 20, just turned 23 in February, but more ready for the NHL game than had he come in a couple of years ago, for sure.
And that's why it's an attractive option sometime for these kids to go this route. Again, not that he took this route religiously, but to go the route of doing the 6-year plan really once you turn 18, because when you draft an 18-year-old kid, especially when it's a late rounder like this, again, you have no idea how he's going to grow, how he's going to fill out, what's going to happen from there. When you get somebody who's already 23, 24 years old, then where he's at. Just pretty much where he's going to be. He's not going to he's not going to get any bigger, or he's certainly not going to get any smaller, but he's pretty much a finished product at this point. And the other nice thing about his situation is that it kind of allowed him to ride out COVID a little more smoothly, I think, than some of the other guys his age out there. Guys that went through the Canadian juniors, for instance. I mean, especially the Quebec, the Ontario Hockey League. Like, they barely had a season in 2019-20, and then into 2021. I mean, they were really kind of interrupted there. Minnesota Duluth, he played 34 games the year COVID hit, so he got almost a full season in there. And then 2021 season still got 28 games in. So I don't know exactly how their season progressed last year, but he hasn't. There wasn't any of these. You see some of these guys that went through from the 2021 season to the start of this season, played 8 games or something crazy like that. Yeah. He didn't do that. So, he was probably the whole time in a familiar place, continuing his development. And, you hope that that pays off for him, going into this spot.
Yeah. And having the ice availability and the training facilities and all that during it too. A lot of the guys, like in the OHL, I mean, they just weren't allowed anywhere near a rink or a workout facility for much longer than we were down here in the States. And, it's sometimes I almost forget about how interruptive COVID was for the development of hockey players, probably because I want to forget it.
Right.
And it feels so much better now that we're, you got full buildings across the league, and we're hoping this thing is totally in the rear view, and there's a lot of optimism that it is, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh man, you almost forget about 2 years ago. I mean, right now, 2 years ago, we were like just into the first pause and going, oh, we'll be back in a month.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
that's kind of what's going to happen. I mean, again, just looking at some other guys that were in the same overall situation. Tyson Forrester, for instance, he finished things up in the Ontario Hockey League. He goes to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. The American Hockey League was all over the place as well. Last year the Phantoms only played, I think, a 36 or 38 game season against two or three other teams. His 2021 season last year for Forrester consisted of just 24 games. 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points. So, he did well, but didn't get a lot of ice time because of the overall situation. And again, it's, to me, it's also not, it's not not a small part of people looking at where the Flyers are now. I mean, it's just been a tough go for the entire organization during all of this, and that's why there was an article that ran yesterday in the Athletic about Chuck Fletcher and kind of evaluating what he's done, and the article went on for a good 1,000 words or two before it even mentioned COVID. The whole COVID situation. It's like that's part of why the Flyers are where they are, just because the organization didn't ride it out as well as some others, and I'm not sure you can fault anybody for that. It is what it is. But it is a thing that we're going to have to watch play out here over the next couple of years as far as development of some of these younger players.
Yeah, kind of in the offseason, I want to take a look at that. I'm going to do a podcast episode on that. The teams that were able to handle COVID, I imagine that there was, the whole thing, there was some kind of common denominator. And it wasn't about leadership. It was probably about team build and where they were. Teams that were having players that they were depending on coming up on ELCs to contribute in a small window, and guys couldn't develop and couldn't get there. I imagine it affected them. Some teams weren't in reliance of those kind of things in this situation, not to mention, their salary cap situation as well. So I'm going to have to take a deep dive into that. I'm probably going to have to assign that to Bill Meltzer. He's much more equipped than I.
Yeah.
But there are teams that look like they got through this. Well, maybe they were positioned prior in a similar circumstance to the other teams that did well. It's something it's going to take some digging and some investigative, some homework to really figure it out and see if there is a common denominator to it, because I think there probably is.
Yeah, that's it's a bit of a fascinating point to kind of take a dive into it. I don't know that that it's I don't know that you can actually put a finger on it, but it is apparent to me that the Flyers enjoyed the 2019-20 season the way that they did, and then they got into the bubble, and you could tell they weren't the same. They had the
eyes didn't lie.
Yeah, they had a good run in the preliminary round, but you could tell they weren't the same. Then they came out in the 2021 season itself, and they were actually, and that's what a lot of people forget, is the team was doing pretty well until the wave of COVID hit the team itself. As it went through every team, and then it went through the Flyers, and then they came out of that, and they went out to Tahoe and played that game against Boston, and then the team was never the same after that. So yeah, it's really worth a look, is to try to figure out why. And again, you don't necessarily want to put a ton of resources into it, because it may never happen again. But at least you'll understand. Maybe it helps you for some other situation down the road if you can figure something out in the off season or something like that, just in terms of digging through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the teams now that things are back to normal that have really reverted, and I look at Montreal. Obviously, you lose Price and you lose Weber. That's part of it. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I look at a team like Winnipeg, who was cup or bust the year prior, and now they appear to be in a very volatile situation. Paul Maurice resigned, and they bring in Lowry, and they're talking about trading Scheifele and trading Pierre-Luc Dubois. You give me Kyle Connor any day of the week, or Nikolai Ehlers, I'll take them off your hands, no problem. But
Yeah.
So and Hellebuck, has been an all-world goaltender, but he talked about the struggles that players were going through and the restrictions, and depression is all right. We're working off the rails a little bit, but that's all right. Anyway, it's the Flyers and the
famous four.
Yeah, but I think it's a fascinating discussion. But anyway, we'll join our radio audience coming up in just a couple minutes. It's the Flyers and the Preds tonight. Last we saw the Preds was back on St. Patrick's Day, a pretty celebratory night at Wells Fargo Center. It was Claude Giroux's 1,000th NHL game and his final as a Flyer. Flyers got the win that night in dramatic fashion over UC Saros and the Preds 5-4. They went on since then, though, Bri, to beat Toronto 6-3, to beat Anaheim on the road 6-3, to lose back-to-back 6-1 games on the road to both the Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. And now they return home after that 3-game road trip, Anaheim, Los Angeles, and Vegas, to take on the Flyers. And maybe you're hoping a little bit of a hangover comes from Vegas.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, it's definitely
the first,
right? It's I guess maybe if you're going back to Nashville, you're a little bit more used to it. Apparently, our radio color analyst had a fun night last night, enjoying the establishments that Nashville has to offer. So maybe it's a little bit different if you're coming back there. But yeah, it's a Nashville team that's going to now play a good chunk of their remaining schedule at home. They only have 6 road games left, and 2 of them are back to back on the final weekend of the season. So they're going to be at home for a while. They're going to try to settle in a little bit. It's really kind of interesting. After the Flyers game, they scored 6 goals in each of their next 2 games, won both of those. Vegas, Los Angeles, 1 goal each. Just like flick the switch. It's like, what team are we going to see tonight? We're really not sure, but they have not had that level of offense, low level of offense in very many games this season. This team's scored a lot of goals this year, and they have a lot of weapons, obviously, to try to get the job done on a given night. And the Flyers, again, in that game against Nashville on the 17th, obviously had a lot of other things going on. It was almost like their opponent was an afterthought, and they were able to finish it off. But they're hoping to be, I think, a little more thorough against the Predators tonight.
Well, I don't know that I've seen this in a very long time, but the Predators have 2 forwards over a point per game player. They have Duchesne, 66 points in 61 games, Forsberg, 64 points in 52 games, yet it's a D-man leading the way. I mean, the numbers on Roman Josi this season are absurd. I know Makar is like kind of the name for the Norris, but I don't know that you can deny Roman Josi the Norris this year. 18 goals, 61 assists in 63 games. He's got 79 points. And this guy is not slowing as the season goes on at all. He has been unbelievable.
I'm always a little hesitant to jump on Norris conversation just because I don't pay as much attention as probably I should to everybody around the league. And the one thing that my own experience in the American Hockey League was that nobody really ever saw anybody. I mean, this is before video was as wide as it is now, but every single year in the AHL, the best defenseman trophy went to the leading scorer. It was just automatic. You just knew it was going to happen. I would never want to give like Erik Karlsson the Norris Trophy by any sense of the imagination, but just his overall game does deserve it. It's not just his, not just what he brings on the offensive side. It is, it's very hard to get anything done with him on the ice. But when you are, when you are putting out, more than a point per game, I mean, that right there, that can kind of mitigate any defensive liabilities that you might have, which he doesn't have a lot. I mean, obviously you see the points, but he's also playing over 25 minutes a game. That is in the top 15 at least in the NHL in terms of the amount of time that he's able to eat up. So he's definitely right there for the big conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, he hasn't gone a game in the month of March without a point.
That's crazy. I mean,
and he's got, I think, 26 points in 12 games. I mean, this is a defenseman. Like this, this isn't normal in any era, frankly.
It's not even from the Mark Howe era, right?
No,
just scoring left and right. I mean, just going down his game by game here, which I just brought up real quick. Over that number you were talking about, that number of games, he's got a 4-assist game in there. He's got a 4-point game, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's got 3 consecutive 3-assist games in that run. So he had, just in that 4-game run, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Toronto, he had 2 goals and 11 assists in 4 games. I mean, that is crazy. So
bananas.
You would always want to have that on your blue line, that's for sure.
Yeah, 12 games, 4 goals, 22 assists, 26 points, a plus 12, and playing 25.09 a night. All right, let's pick up our radio audience here. And welcome to Flyers Game Day. We welcome in our radio audience on 93.3 WMMR and the Flyers Broadcast Network. It's Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, getting ready for Flyers and Predators. We're just talking about Roman Josi. And boy, the heater that he's on over his last dozen games, 4 goals, 22 assists, 26 points, plus 12, 25 minutes of ice time. Ho-hum, not a bad player.
Not a bad player at all. The Flyers, they had a situation going for a while, back in, the early part of the decade when Chris Pronger's coming in, where you've got a guy that's on the blue line that can almost do everything. And, ever since that injury, that's always a big turning point in my mind for where the Flyers franchise history kind of took a turn, was that injury, because it's very hard to replace a player like that. And it's very hard to replace a player like Roman Josi. There aren't a lot of them out there in the NHL. There's lots of guys that eat up minutes. There's lots of guys that are solid defensively. And then there's lots of guys that can contribute offensively from the blue line, but not many guys can do the whole package together. And that's what you're seeing with him.
Well, good news for the Flyers, because they get Travis Konechny back. He misses just the one game. That was the game against Colorado, the 6-3 defeat in Colorado. And TK returns. He had the 2-goal game the night prior to Colorado. And here's the lines for tonight. Farabee going to be centering Van Riemsdyk and Atkinson once again. And the second line will be Kevin Hayes, Hayden Hodgson, and Travis Konechny. Morgan Frost centering Oscar Lindblom and Owen Tippett. And you got Zach Brown. What am I, an idiot?
I've been
Zach
doing
McEwen.
that. I've been doing that the whole time he's been on the team. It's not.
Well, there's a Zach on his line. It's Patrick Brown, Zach McEwen, and Max Willman. Provorov in York, Santa and
Ruslan. He kind of looks like the guy too.
Yeah, he does. And then Yandel and Connaught and Martin Jones gets the start tonight for the Flyers. And great to have TK back. But, Brian, I think this is the game tonight where we get the first Flyer goal for one Owen Tippett.
The two of them, Tippett and Hodgson, really have been eye-opening in these last 2 games. And Tippett to me has done a lot more than maybe what the score sheet says, but he did have 6 shots on goal last game. So did Hayden Hodgson. These two guys, Tippett, you expected it for him maybe. Nobody even knew who Hayden Hodgson was a week ago, unless you were following the American Hockey League. So, it is a kind of a really interesting thing. I mean, to me, the craziest thing that I'm looking at with the lines tonight is that Konechny comes back and Hodgson's still in there. I mean, that tells you they want to keep looking at this kid. So we'll see where that goes. But Tippett has been. I mean, we've talked about how Cam York, when he came up, how smooth he looked on defense, and just looked like he belonged there. And to me, I've seen the same thing from Owen Tippett. He just looks like he is, right in his element, and the playmaking that he's been trying to put on at this point almost comes easy to him. So really excited to see that develop and see how much further he can take that this season.
Yeah, I mean, his shot log, two shots in the first 2 games each. Then the one shot against St. Louis did pick up an assist in that game, his first point as a Flyer. And then, like you said, against Colorado, 6 shots on goal in that game, played 16-39. And I have a feeling that he gets one tonight. That's what I'm banking on. But great to see Travis Konechny back as well, because he is playing really well, and it's very apparent that chemistry that he and Kevin Hayes have developed.
Yeah. I mean, it's when the thing changed with who all was here in terms of personnel and things like that. Obviously that's going to change who you're playing with who. And before the trade deadline, really you had a couple of guys there that were you could see them coming back individually. Konechny had been putting up assists like crazy the first of the year. His playmaking was really increasing. He hadn't been scoring, but he was making things happen out there. And then Hayes, when he came back from the infection that came up after his core surgery, he was starting to look like the old Kevin Hayes. And now you've taken both of them and put them together, and it has really been a good match. So that's, again, this is the kind of stuff the Flyers want to try to establish here going into this offseason as they plan for next year. And the two of them together might be a long-term thing.
So 20 games for Kevin Hayes before returning this stint since the infection, when he returned in March. In those first 20 games he played this year, and we watched him, he did not look like he was 70%, let alone 100%. He had 3 goals and 6 assists and 9 points and was averaging 15 minutes and 51 seconds of ice time in those 20 games, 9 total points, 3 goals, 6 assists. Since then, in the 11 games that he's been back now, Bri, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points, and playing a full 3 minutes a game more a night. Totally different player.
Yeah, he went out of the lineup on January 17th, came back on March 5th. And, he had an assist on March 5th, didn't have any points the next game, but he still played almost 18 minutes. Since then, he has scored at least a point in 7 of the 9 games. He's got 4 multi-point games. He's got a 4-game scoring streak coming into this game. And, he had of those 4 multi-point games, 3 of them were in a row. The Islanders, Detroit, and St. Louis. Right before the Colorado game, he had a 2-goal game and then followed it up with 2 consecutive 2-assist games. So that just kind of tells you that, you can kind of see there that he was, he was struggling in January and then said, all right, we're going to go get this cleaned up. And then, as he's come back, once he got his feet under him, he has just taken off.
And I know that Jordan put out this stat the other day, Jordan Hall from NBC Sports Philly, that when he scores, like the Flyers record is like 33, 4, and like 3. It's amazing.
Yeah, Timmy's got the exact number too. I know he keeps really close track of that, but yeah, the game they lost the other night when he scored was rare, actually. That happens. It really doesn't happen very often since he joined the team. A lot of that, of course, was in the 1920 season, but yeah, it's been very, very solid.
All right, stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they have got the countdown to face off and all the first period action from Nashville right after this. You'll be listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right, Rye, talk to you at the intermission. See you, streamers.
See you, folks.